You look around at these guys, it's almost like they're alive. Every one of them's got a different story and contributed to a different era of our history.
Tucked away on this 600-acre tract of land in James City County, 42 huge presidential busts, at one time part of President's Park in Williamsburg. That tourist attraction, which opened in March of 2004, closing just 6 years later.
I built the original park. Park went under, and I guess because I was the original guy out there doing site work, they called me up and wanted to know if I could crush them.
Howard Hankins owns a commercial construction recycling business. This could have been the fate of those gigantic presidential heads.
I went down and looked at them, and I just said, you know, how can you destroy these things?
He had these heads of state trucked to his James City County property, and this is where they've been sitting. The years have not been kind to our presidents, more obvious on some than on others.
The weather's getting to them. That's why we got to do the repair work.
But it is suspected there might be other reasons for some of the damage. Even though they're not officially on display,
right?
You had issues with people sneaking onto the property.
Oh, constantly. We put cameras out now. It's pretty much we've had to start calling the police. I've had them hanging off the glasses. I think it was
maybe Truman
climbing on them. All day long on a weekend, couples will drive in. I drove down from Wisconsin, or I'm from so-and-so. Can I go out there?
How often were people coming out here?
Well, you don't know because you don't catch them all. We were catching them a lot.
In fact, while we were shooting this story,
I just caught somebody trying to come in.
Where?
Somebody just tried to plow through the front and come back here.
Alice Hancock is helping with the planning and marketing for the future of these heads.
They flew past us, and she hauled off and cut them off, and they were trying to get around her. And they said, we want to see the heads.
Plans to see the heads are in the works to open access up to the public to once again.
And we're standing right here.
View this display of presidential history. What's been the response from James City County officials?
Very positive. They wanted benefits for the community. So a winery, a brewery.
Much more than come and look at some presidential heads.
That's right.
Cinema Cafe sent the first shot saying, hey, do you want to have a sign war? I sent the response, and then the rest is going crazy. Bayside Rec put on their thing, pickleball with like a greater than sign over skating.
We run them by each other. Shaggy and I did, at least in the beginning. Make sure that it's not detrimental to anybody's business.
Fuddruckers in Virginia Beach posted, and then Hooters in Virginia Beach, and then it just wildfire. Chicho's at 29th Street put, hey Shaggy, we're the real locals' favorite.
Might be pretty good for us going into our slow season. It might drum up a little bit of business. It's certainly fun for the staff. And, you know, Shaggy's a fun guy.
So my sign is gonna say, hey, Bayside Rec, let me know when they make a movie about pickleball. I had a family tag me yesterday. They went to get fast food at the Hager Shopping Center, and they ate in our parking lot because they wanted to see what the next sign was gonna be. And I'm like, I'm up on this ladder, like about to die every day.
I didn't quite realize how big and how far this was gonna go or how long.
Someone wrote me and said, can Norfolk play? I'm like, sure. Like, I know we're all in Virginia Beach. I don't care. Anyone can get it. What about this? I'm like, oh my God, the big digital sign? He goes, yeah. And I go, oh no. Like, what do? I need a bigger sign. I need a plane.
It's just been a lot of fun and very creative. Some of these guys are really, really funny.
A terrible incident. Do you want to just talk us through, please, what it is you've been able to establish about what's happened?
Yeah, so we know that the call for the shooting came in right around 10:15 local time here. We know police really haven't said the identity of the shooter.
Living or working in a city or both doesn't really afford us many opportunities to be exposed to nature. In fact, nearly 80% of all Americans live in a city. So what's the answer?
Kroger has hundreds of jobs they are looking to fill immediately.
Rosario saw stories like that, and he put in his application. He was able to leverage his knife skills as a classically trained chef to snag a job at Kroger.
On Saturday, this helicopter unit was patrolling in the skies when they received a call from the ground. Spokespeople for the Headwaters Casino and Resort Project say they expect it will redefine the waterfront here in downtown Norfolk. Give some perspective on how massive these turbines are. When the blade is fully extended, it is taller than the Washington Monument, and these aren't even the biggest ones yet.
Beyond this bird's eye view of Bacon's Castle, these brothers and cousins have come together to reflect on a shared ancestor.
Our great-grandmother Cordelia was born here.
Cordelia Jones was born at Bacon's Castle in 1850. The white plantation owner was likely her father, but she was enslaved, forced to sleep in the attic, in a hole in the wall.
A hole in the wall, yes. People of color were being thought about as things rather than people.
In the shadows of the mansion, a house a fraction of its size housed generations of enslaved black families.
White history at a plantation doesn't exist without the history of enslaved people at the plantation.
Peyton Young is a historian and genealogist. They've been peeling back the layers to expose revolutionary black history here.
You found records of enslaved people who ran away from Bacon's Castle.
Yes, I did. There was a small number of young men between the ages of 17 and 24 that ran away right at the start of the Civil War, and they disappeared completely.
Young also tells me records reveal an enslaved man here was charged with participating in Nat Turner's Rebellion, a bloody uprising against white slave owners in Southampton County in 1831. But stories about the bravery among black people at Bacon's Castle isn't why most people know about it. Back in 1676, Nathaniel Bacon led a rebellion against Virginia's governor. Bacon rallied poor farmers to demand more land from Native Americans. They slaughtered tribes in their path and burned down Jamestown, too. And for a few months during the rebellion, some of Bacon's followers seized this home owned by the Allen family. Bacon himself was likely never here. But it was crowned Bacon's Castle nearly 100 years later, when Thomas Jefferson reframed the rebellion as a precursor to the American Revolution.
We're preserving the house, but we're preserving every story that went into this house.
Elise Whirling and Brenna Garrity with Preservation Virginia say preserving this house also means being direct about how the rebellion led by this land's namesake cemented race-based slavery in the U.S. You see, the wealthy feared their white indentured servants would rise up again, so the colonies created the slave codes.
It's basically a series of laws that come up after Bacon's Rebellion, enshrining slavery as the race-based hereditary chattel enslavement system that would persist until 1863.
Even after slavery's end, black people worked and lived on this land and in this house, including the Langhorne siblings' family in the 1930s.
My aunt lived here years ago when I was a very little girl.
Juliana Johnson, a celebrated midwife in Surrey, and her husband rented the former slave quarters. Unlike neighboring houses rented to white families, the Johnsons had no kitchen, toilet, or running water. They bided their time here until they saved enough money to buy a home of their own.
They struggle to get where we are now, but there's still more to be done.
And more to be taught about the entire legacy linked to this land.
If you are a citizen of Virginia, this is your history. And I think people really need to grapple with that.
For these men, grappling with what their grandmother endured here gives way to gratitude that her perseverance paved the way for their existence.
I think she would probably say my soul looks back and wonder how we got over.